Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Kansas House District 18 Republican Primary Candidate Forum. We're going to give it just a minute or so to allow everybody to log in before we really get going here and start this forum with Cathy Gordon. So, like I said, we'll just give it a minute and get going from there. Thank you.
It's okay.
All right, Ms. Gordon, are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's get started. Again, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Joe Riedel with Straub Construction, and I serve as the chair of Shawnee Chamber's Government Affairs Committee, and it is my honor to be the moderator for today's forum, which is quite a bit different for us. So we are adjusting to these times, as we all are. So please bear with us as we host our very first virtual candidate forum. So on behalf of Johnson County Public Policy Council, a collaboration of all 10 area chambers of commerce, and particularly on behalf of the Shawnee Chamber, thank you for attending our forum featuring a candidate in the Republican primary for Kansas House District 18. I would also, of course, like to give a very big thank you to our sponsor for this, for the governmental affairs program throughout this year, Evergy. So before we get started, I'd like to begin by first sharing that both candidates in this race were invited to participate in this forum and state that Mr. Vandergrift was contacted on numerous occasions by both email and telephone and failed to respond to requests for him to participate. So it was very clear that we were going to allow anyone who wished to participate to do so. And here we are with Ms. Gordon, who has definitely been excited to participate. So a couple housekeeping rules. The format's going to be the same as all forums hosted by JCCPC and will be as follows. We're going to allow Ms. Gordon to give a 3-minute opening statement. And then we will have a moderated question and answer period during which each candidate, Ms. Gordon, will have about 1.5 minutes to respond. There should be a counter on the screen to show what that timeline is. And then we're going to allow for a 2-minute closing statement. So the format, questions, and time limits will be the same. Due to constraints, we don't anticipating having time for follow-up. Well, we won't be able to address follow-up questions during the questions. And we don't know if there will be time to answer any other questions from the public. Just kind of depends on time. So if we have the time, we will certainly be happy to try to do that. And that can be, any of those questions can be submitted via the chat function through Zoom. So let me now introduce the candidates in the Republican primary for House District 18. The district is located completely within Shawnee and is bounded approximately from County Line Road on the north and 71st Street on the south, and from the eastern city limits or Schweitzer to Flum on the west. So a little bit about Cathy. Cathy is a wife, mother, nurse practitioner, and businesswoman in both nonprofit and for-profit sectors. So thank you and welcome, Cathy.
Thank you.
So,
thank you so much.
Yeah, at that time, you've got 3 minutes for your opening statement. Then we'll get to question and answers. So take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thank you so much for hosting this, Shawnee Chamber and Evergy. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am a Kansan. I was born in Wichita, lived in the Saline and Hutchinson area. Our family goes way back as homesteaders in Ellsworth County. We used to say 1,000 cattle on 1,000 hills, but we had 1,000 acres in the family and still do today. So we're very proud Kansans, growing up with the blue skies, as the song reveals. I'm also very passionate to be a part of the legislature. I have been working with many of our legislators on different bills over the past 20 years, and I just can't wait to join their team. I so respect them for the work they do. I look forward to working on health policy, especially if I get that opportunity. As a nurse practitioner and working with the underserved in our area, I have a passion to continue that work, as well as, the whole idea on what is Medicaid and how can it best be used in our state without costing us money. So I am very excited as part of that program. I am a conservative Republican, lifelong Republican, started with my grandma out in the farm. She was a precinct committee woman, and I would go with her to visit all of the different farmers. So I can't wait to get started, and I'm looking forward to having a lot of the support in Shawnee. So for those of the people in Shawnee in my district, they've seen me riding my bicycle. I am that woman out there riding my bicycle, meeting as many people in our district and hearing what they have to say. I'm really excited to be here with them. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm really sad that Calvin didn't want to join us, the opponent. So.
Yep, but all right, well, we're definitely looking forward to what you have to say. And then just kind of as a reminder, these questions have been derived from folks submitting questions through the Chamber of Commerce and others through consulting other Johnson County Public Policy Council. And they're obviously, the forum being hosted through the Shawnee Chamber. They're going to be definitely business-related questions that might impact the business owners in Shawnee. So with that, let's get going. And a reminder, 1.5 minutes to answer each, to respond to each question. So question 1, what do you see as the top 3 business policy issues facing the state of Kansas in the coming year?
Obviously, the most obvious one I think that we all would agree on is the pandemic, and it has affected businesses. So what can we do to get the businesses back open? I applaud the City Council and Shawnee for their efforts to get businesses back open, even if it means expanding into the parking lots so that they can serve their consumers. Expanding our labor forces, I'm 100% behind the labor forces as our country was founded on. I have a family of iron workers and contractors and entrepreneurs. So how can we get and support apprenticeship programs and increase our labor forces so people have jobs that will build our economy? And the last thing is just to promote the innovation and the idea of entrepreneurship. From being from a family of entrepreneurs and an entrepreneur myself, how can we promote those great ideas and help them be sustainable businesses? Those are my 3 topics that I'd like to really focus on when we talk about what is the government's role and how do we get jobs back in Kansas, get people back to work despite this pandemic.
Okay, well done. Well within 1.5 minutes. Question 2, how would you propose to balance the state budget? What specific budget cuts would you support, and what revenue enhancements would you consider, if any?
You know, that's a tough question. Again, we're faced with a pandemic, and how to best balance the budget is to stop spending the money. We already know that we're going to have a $1.4 billion shortfall in 2021. So we've got to stop spending. So the response that I would have on how to help balance the budget, besides stop spending, is to really, really look at how can we save money in the capacity that we're operating today. And there are solutions. And I fall right back into the 2016 Alvarez-Marcel state review program. There's some great ideas in there that still have not been implemented. One that's dear to me is more use of nurse practitioners to serve our Kansans out in the critical access areas, as well as even in Johnson County, because that's why I started a nonprofit for the underserved. And how can we utilize their services in the critical access areas primarily and save money? We can do that. It was all identified in the Alvarez-Marcel report, consolidating some of our districts that are smaller, things like that. So it's about stop spending and go back to what we already spent money on that report and say, what can we implement to save money? That's our number 1 solution right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
earlier you just briefly touched on labor forces. So what would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce? Could you get into some more specifics at all?
Well, the labor force is, we attract businesses. The labor force is out there. This is what America was founded on. One of my most exciting things, I'm sitting in my home office, for example, and up on my wall up here are the immigration papers of my great-grandparents and how they came to the US. And it says, what is your occupation? And it's housewife and laborer. And that's what America was founded on. And that's the backbone of our economy. So to develop the, apprenticeship programs and to help them be sustainable, or to encourage the technological education programs. Those are such quality work, and we can empower our own state by doing that. And finally, also just to attract that. And so there are so many licensure restrictions right now, and in certification programs, and now you have to be licensed just to do certain things. So it's looking at all of those restrictions and saying, how can we help each person, each laborer do their work successfully with better outcomes and saving our state money. So the labor force is a big one for me. It's my family. all the farmers are laborers, so we have to support them.
Okay, switching gears a little bit here. Can you share with us, very general question, can you share with us your views on K12 funding?
On what funding?
Just your views on the K12 funding.
Oh, K12 funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. God bless them. God bless our teachers. God bless our families. Again, with the COVID pandemic, our whole school system has been one day at a time, and I don't know what we're going to do for the future. And I know that Governor Kelly's addressing a program today that the school boards were implementing or suggesting to implement. So regarding that funding, we don't know the answer, specifically for the fact of what happened with the pandemic. If we can't get our jobs and our economy back open, if we can't support that, we can't support any more funding to our schools. We can't. And so it's all about who's going to pay for it. So the funding is adequate as it stands today. If you do apples to apples comparison, it's just a matter of now what? That's the big question with the pandemic. And how can we support parents as teachers? How can we support the teachers as they are today? My husband's a teacher. It's quite the struggle to try to do virtual music classes. And he's a band teacher. And I see my friends struggle with lessons plans and spending much more time. So supporting the virtual classroom is primary right now. And I'm not sure on the whole aspect of the budget, because we got to figure out who's going to pay for it. So my answer is stop spending money.
Okay. What type of economic development policies will you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Again, we're so this COVID thing this pandemic has really made us a struggle, and to support the economic basis, I'm not for border wars. What I mean by that is, the Kansas-Missouri line, they've had an impasse saying we're not going to be competitive anymore. I'm saying open the gates, let's be competitive. We need to attract our businesses to our state and attract income basis. So if that's through tax credits, if that's through tax incentives, let's do it, because in the long run, we will actually improve our society. So attracting businesses to Kansas is a primary focus and goal, and helping the entrepreneur grow and build their own business strategy is very key, and to help them be successful. Right now, the entrepreneur is stuck with so many taxes to run a business. They get property taxes, employment taxes, personal taxes on anything they bring in. So how can we help support them to be sustainable without taxing them so much? That's kind of my goal. And right now, the number one thing is get people back to work.
Okay, thank you. And you again, with your background, this is pretty apparent that you're passionate about this, but we'll give you a little bit more time to expand. What are your views on the healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion in Kansas? Phil.
So, I'm very passionate on this. I am not in favor of Medicaid expansion. I am not in favor of government telling me how to have health care. I think that we need less government in health care. My primary reason for saying this is I've seen the different types of health care. I know I'm American. I know how Americans think and breathe. And from the many times I've traveled into other countries and providing health care to the underserved in those countries, and the public systems that are there, they don't serve people well. I would like to see an outcomes-based healthcare policy. And what that means is, what's the value for every dollar spent? Are you getting preventative healthcare? And nurses are the best at prevention. They run hospitals, they help people get healthy. Nurses are the ones that make these decisions on a day-to-day basis. They're the voice of the patient, and the patient is us. So I bring in that new flavor of healthcare, and it's called value-based outcomes policy, driven on providing the best preventative wellness care at the lowest cost. I'm all for that. I am not for Medicaid expansion.
Okay, thank you. Question 7 here. What are your views on state tax policy? That's,
We've been talking about that.
I know.
You know what? I think if you want to raise taxes, I'll say it this way. I got asked a great question by a constituent in my area about, am I going to raise taxes for the transportation issue? And if you're going to ask this question, I'll be answering it right now. The Eisenhower transportation plan. And I'm like, how can we raise taxes when people aren't back to work? I'm not a fan of raising taxes without a vote. And so I want to take it back to the people. If they want to have increased taxes and pay for a project such as building new infrastructure on our roads. I mean, I'm a cyclist. I like to have all those bike pathways, but we cannot continually increase taxes. If it's going to happen, we need to take it to the public and allow them to have the voice on that. Therefore, that is my response.
Okay. And lastly here, what do you believe most distinguishes you from your candidate or your opponent?
Well, means nobody else showed up today. No, that would be a big one. One of the biggest factors that distinguishes me as a different candidate is I'm a nurse. I listen to people. I have a tendency to care about them, and that approach is far more effective because we're trained to do that. And I have a wellness perspective on healthcare. So, like, let's prevent the big problems. I'm an incredible candidate in the legislature because we have no nurses. Nursing is the largest, or one of the largest professions in the United States. It's a very large profession in Kansas, and we need that voice very strongly, because without nurses, hospitals don't run. If we think about it that way, every single Kansan, every single person has been touched by a nurse at least one time in their life. It's from the moment of birth to surgical, to health, being a provider visit, to being in the hospital for an illness. We are all touched by a nurse. So that's what makes me profoundly different, is I listen and I care.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, kind of along those lines, it may be just a little bit different than a differentiator, but we certainly want to allow the opportunity to provide 2 minutes just in closing statements, if you want to, cover anything else we didn't address, or reiterate anything.
Sure. I think in closing, I'd just like to summarize by allowing everybody to know how much I love this state. I love Kansas. I love Shawnee. I want to be a part of the insider approach of the legislator. I so appreciate all of them. I'm proud of our legislature and how hard they work. Even when they don't get along, they're working very hard. I'm proud of the ones that we've had here in Shawnee, and I'm looking forward to joining the team and working just as hard with them. Besides being a nurse, I am a business owner. I started a nonprofit. I was the CEO of Mercy and Truth Medical Missions for 17 years, and then I started a for-profit. And I've learned incredible amounts of detail about running businesses and worrying about payroll, all of those things, balancing a very tight budget. And those things that I've had in my past have made me a great candidate for the legislature, to have a well-rounded perspective of how to even work on the budget in Kansas and to work on appropriations and even our infrastructure. So I'm looking forward to joining that party, and I want everybody out there to vote for Cathy.
Okay, well, we were possibly would have had some time to open it up for questions, but I haven't seen any questions in the chat function here so far. So I think with that, then made it a little quicker today with just the one candidate. But we certainly very much appreciate your willingness to come on here and discuss, answer the questions, and just discuss, you know, your goals and objectives in the campaign, and not only in the campaign if elected. So, but I think with that, we'll conclude today's forum, the Republican primary for House District 18. And as I said, thank you, Cathy, for taking the time with us and share your thoughts. And again, thank you very much to our sponsor, Evergy. And then today's forum will be available to view along with all the other primary races in Johnson County on the JCPPC website at votejoco.com. And many of the candidates will have completed candidate questionnaires that can be found there as well. So, and let me close by reminding viewers of a few key dates. Advanced voting by mail begins today, or began today, July 15th. Advanced voting in person begins on July 20th. Primary election day is Tuesday, August 4th, with the polls open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And with that, I just want to reiterate to everybody, please go vote. And thank you, everybody, for your time and tuning in. And thanks again, Ms. Gordon, for being here.
Good night. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Thank you.